Hi everyone, I am doing this in a slightly different location only because in my usual spot someone is playing music and that is annoying me. So I moved and I am here. But I am next to a plant. So that's nice. We have a full moon in roughly 24 hours after that I am recording this. And while my general instructions for this Mercury retrograde period that started on March the 5th, one day before the new moon, for which this is a corresponding full moon, while my general advice for this Mercury retrograde has been try to be silent and observe what Mercury retrograde is bringing up and try not to react to it too much and try to give Mercury retrograde space to reveal everything that it is trying to reveal as it reverses, right? So if you think of Mercury retrograde being a vehicle, it goes up to a certain point and then it stops and then it reverses. And when it reverses, we have the opportunity, while experiencing all sorts of Mercury retrograde symptoms, delays, and everything takes 3 times as long to do, and asinine conversations with customer service, and they're bewildered and you're bewildered, and travel issues, and public transportation, and taxi cabs, and all that kind of stuff. Flights, oh my goodness, and airports and closures, and anything to make our life not go as planned. So while experiencing all those Mercury retrograde symptoms, my general advice has been, while Mercury is reversing, take a look at where you've traveled over the past, since February, beginning of February, but to be more precise, even February the 10th. And as Mercury reverses, go over certain things. And whether you like it or not, conversations and things and issues will come up and you will be forced to look at things again. And these could very well be things that are related to crises that were created in late 2015, first 3 quarters of 2016. Sorry about the music, if you can hear it. Last quarter of 2015, first 3 quarters of 2016. And it's likely that wherever this was thematically occurring also came up with a bit of a bang in the middle of November 2018, this past November till December the 31st. And here we are again, February, March, April, dealing with the same issues. And these issues are not, for most people, the primary direction and path of life, what they're doing or what they're trying to do. They're just here, and they need to be dealt with, and they're a bit of a distraction. But March in general, and I'm repeating themes from the past few videos just to, I will talk about the full moon, but this is going somewhere. But March in general has been a period of pausing after 2 months, January and February, of swift movement. And so there is this sense of January and February, move. And March, it's like, okay, let's now deal with something else that may be holding us back, or something else that is creating a certain amount of reflection, or something else that might be creating what I will call generalized anxiety. And in some cases, a certain amount of stress. But it could be related to these time periods that I mentioned. Late 2015, first 3 quarters of 2016, some sort of crisis, some sort of breakdown, activated again in November, mid-November to be more precise, 2018 to December the 31st, back again in February. And as I've mentioned before, do not lose heart, because April might bring the opportunity for some sort of healing. And I've said before that the obvious idea of healing is, of course, to get very excited and think everything will be smooth. But the healing could be a handshake. The healing could be a determination to move forward. The healing could be closing out certain things. The healing could be terminating things or terminating relationships. Healing comes in various forms. And we'll wait and see what it brings for each of us. But we are entering a period from the 20th of March till the beginning of April, indeed till the new moon on April the 5th or 6th, that is a handoff of energies. But it is especially true of the last 10 days of March, where there's a handoff of energies that is occurring between the new and the new space and us dealing with the old. Tomorrow on March 20th, the sun moves into the sign of Aries, the day of the equinox, and officially inaugurates the new year, at least in the northern hemisphere. First day of spring. The first astrological day of the year. the sun moves into the first sign of Aries. And on the very first day, we have a first full moon in Libra. Unusual, but because we're having this first full moon in Libra, here we are, we're talking about the full moon, guys. At the 0 degrees of Aries, we're going to have, unusually, a second full moon in Libra on April the 19th. Give or take a day, depending on where you are. Check the date in your geography. Unusual to have two full moons in the same part of the chart. In my opinion, this first full moon is more stressful than the second full moon. So the March 20th full moon is more stressful than the April 19th full moon, my opinion. Partly because Mercury is retrograde, partly because the vehicle is reversing and we are forced to look at and have the opportunity to look at things that we may not have seen the first time, that we need to revisit, reconsider, rethink, replan, relook at. For some of us, this period brings up crises, but largely I'm seeing that there is an opportunity if we can try to quell and manage our anxiety and our stress. There is the opportunity to take a step back and just say, wait, what has been going on? What is this Mercury retrograde revealing? And there is a reveal. The handoff of energies that I'm referring to, March the 20th, the sun moves into the new sign of Aries, leaving the sign of Pisces where Mercury is retrograde, leaving the sign where we had the crisis in 2015, 2016, and the burst of energy in mid-November to end December of 2018, and where a lot of our energy has been. And so it starts the new year. The planet Venus comes into the sign of Pisces, a sign that it loves, where all this retrograde energy has been playing out, on March the 26th. And on March the 28th, Mercury goes direct. And it's the Mercury going direct that we're really all looking forward to. So the sun moves into Aries. Here's the new year. A new set of energies are starting to operate, but then we've still got this healing that needs to be done in the final sign of Pisces. And this has been working with us since February, indeed since the middle of November of last year. So it's time, with Venus's entry to Pisces, which is lovely, and it brings its energy of emphasis on relationships, emphasis on healing, hopefully, emphasis on being open to compromise, emphasis on being open to, it could be financial opportunities. Venus, the planet of money, the planet of luxury, the planet of love, the planet of femininity and the feminine aspect of love, the receptive, the passive, the relationship side of love, as opposed to the Mars kind of testosterone-driven, very passionate sexual side, sensual side of love. Well, sensual, Venus is the planet of sensuality. But Venus's entry to Pisces, I have no idea what that sound is. I'm just going to assume that somehow it's announcing Venus's entry to Pisces and needs to be looked at with some importance. On the 20th is the first sign of healing. And whenever a planet enters a sign, we start to feel the impact of it just a few days before, because energetically it's already starting to move in. And then Mercury going direct on the 28th, we start to move forward again. Now the days around Mercury retrograde, I will come back to this full moon on the 28th, will be gnarly. Whenever Mercury stops, it goes forward and then it stops before it goes retrograde, and it did that around March 5th. And let me tell you, I had an uptake of readings that week after March the 5th for all sorts of reasons. Mercury retrograde, it was the 2-month anniversary of the January 5th eclipse. If you look at my last new moon video, you'll see that correlation. I pointed it out, and sure enough, here it was. It was a new moon, and new energies were coming in the sign of Pisces, where all this activity was activated. And then when Mercury is retrograde, it's going to stop again before it goes direct on March the 28th. And those days around March, as we head towards March the 28th, and give it 3 or 4 days, 5 days even after March the 28th, for the energies to start to clear, for Mercury to start to pick up speed so that we can start to move forward. Indeed, I would say it's not until the April 5th or 6th new moon in Aries that the energies finally clear. But the healing work will start to begin. And certainly between April the 5th and let's just say about April the 14th or so, I wonder if that's where a lot of the opportunity for healing is really going to come. For some people, it could be that the crisis that we were expecting in March comes then, but the eye is towards healing. The eye is towards building something, ideally. The eye is towards resolution. The eye is towards putting a bandage on things. The eye is towards, the purpose and the aim is to deal with certain things that are emotionally weighing us down and preventing us to move forward with the speed that was building in January and February. So let's just deal with the past. And that's the phrase I will use. That phrase really resonates for me. Let's deal with the past so that we can move forward in a lighter manner and can focus on where it is that life is really trying to take us. Now, previously I had said that January and February are the 2 months this year when all the planets are moving forward. This isn't officially or entirely true. After March the 28th, when Mercury moves forward, for a couple of weeks, all planets will be moving forward before Jupiter goes retrograde around April the 10th or 11th. And all planets are not going to be moving as fast as they were, say, by the end of January, but there is still a certain amount of forward movement. So just know that and pay attention to that and see what it feels like, especially for, let's just say, the first week of April or so as you head towards that time. Okay, you have a sense of the lens, you have a sense of where we're at the Mercury retrograde process. Okay, so what does that have to do with this full moon? I would not be surprised that after a period of reflection that this full moon has brought things to a head, and that's what full moons do. On the negative side, full moons bring emotions to a head. Tantrums, meltdowns, anger, emotional outbursts, emotional expression. And my advice to people, a lot of people will say, oh, it's a full moon, pull back, pull back, pull back. I'm just like, no, have it out. If you're not going to do something that's going to create a serious problem or get you arrested or something like that, be mindful, but pay attention to what the full moon, pay attention to what is bubbling over. Pay attention to what needs to be burst. Pay attention to the fact that the dam is bursting. Pay attention to, and figure out what it is. And by all means, if you can use the energy of the full moon to kind of smash through a certain amount of resistance or whatever it is that has not allowed you to deal with something or express something, see if you can actually do that and kind of have that, can we call a timeout moment? On the positive side, full moons can bring things to resolution. You can get an offer, you can be pushed into the limelight. People who've been watching my videos know this and have seen me say this before. This particular full moon, as I said, is a little bit more stressful, in my opinion, than the full moon on April the 19th. And I think that after a couple of weeks of Mercury retrograde, and I think after a couple of weeks of reflecting on what is going on and paying attention through that kind of reflective lens of a Mercury retrograde, I think we've kind of had it. I think there are things that are bubbled to the surface, and the days leading up to the full moon, I always say the 48 to 72 hours leading up to the full moon and the 24 to 48 hours after. And more specifically, I'm more interested in the 48 hours before a full moon and the 24 hours after. Just pay attention to what is being revealed and what is bubbling over and what is coming to a head. And if you do it right, it could be that the anger, the frustration, the negative emotion, so to speak, the necessary build-up actually provides the opportunity for a kind of release. Whether you actually are able to do that, have that release with another person, or whether you are even able to just understand and recognize that you're really frustrated or angry or irritated about something. Just pay attention to what that is. The rest of the energy after the full moon still, I would say, gets in this reflective space, but then after that, the energies start to become a little bit more positive and a little bit more forward. And certainly after the 20th, with the sun in Aries, and the sun loves to be in Aries, immediately we will feel a bit of a shift. But pay attention to what is coming up around this full moon, because we have a second full moon at the last degree of Libra, after this full moon in the very first degree of Libra on April the 19th, and see if that sets up some sort of an arc. With a new moon on April the 5th that I really think clears out the past a certain amount. Whatever generalized anxiety is being created, pay attention to it during this time. Pay attention to what it is that Mercury retrograde is showing to you, And if it resonates that the last 48 hours and the next 24 hours and the 48 hours after that have a certain kind of things coming to the surface, reflective conversations occurring, the opportunity for expression, understand one thing about it, and that is because Mercury is retrograde at this time and it's conjunct the planet Neptune, the conversation will happen at two levels. On the one hand, you're going to be having a conversation that is ostensibly and apparently authentic and is about this bubble bursting and something coming to the surface and something that needs to be resolved. But it's also likely that you're going to walk away from it thinking, oh, what was seen and said was not exactly what is actually going on. And you may have an intuitive hit about what is even more that is being revealed with Neptune. Neptune connects you to this inspired, emotional, mystical realm. And the energies are both deceptive and not really grounded in what we consider reality, and yet very connected to our intuitive perception that can sometimes be deceptive and yet at other times can be powerfully illuminating. So whatever buildup is coming with this Mercury retrograde full moon that we are experiencing, just have the conversations, have the meltdowns, and if it's not a conversation, even if it's something that you're exploring, at least accept that you are having a buildup of emotion and that you might be frustrated or you might be angry or whatever it is that is creating the buildup, and take a step back from it and say, okay, now what do I do with this? And it could be that you feel like you're being told something, but some part of you doesn't entirely believe it. That's really the likeliest way that you're going to feel it. But at least observe, write it down, pay attention to it, and see by the time you get to April the 19th where all of this settles. But know that after April the 26th, even if the week surrounding March the 26th, even if the week surrounding March the 28th is really gnarly with Mercury stationary and waiting to go direct, certainly after April the 5th, know that there's an opportunity to put certain things to bed and see what the definition of healing means to you in such a way that things can be lightened. The burden can be lightened so that you're free again to move forward into the space that January and February put you. And if it means that where you were put literally is not where you end up in April, so be it. But there's a direction or an arc that's been set up. There's a birth canal that we have come through in January and February. And now all of a sudden Mercury is just like, okay, stop. Let's revisit things. What were we planning? What were we thinking? Let's rethink these plans. Let there be delays. Nothing is happening the way we planned it. Nothing is going according to plan. You have no control over your time. And as much as I'm asking you to be reflective during this Mercury retrograde phase, I will acknowledge that Mercury retrograde can feel chaotically busy. It can feel like you have no control over your time. Today I'm going to get up and do these 10 things. And you end up doing 10 things that are completely different and don't even get to one of the 10 things that you said that you would do. Mercury's in control. The planets are in control. You have no way of getting your hands back on the steering wheel and saying, oh, I had this plan today and everything is going to go according to plan. That is going to start up again by the time we hit April the 5th, and you'll feel like you're in charge again. But the purpose of the retrograde is very much to tie up loose ends and to see if issues lingering from 2015 and 2016, especially 2016, can't start to be addressed in such a way that the burden from that time is lighter, and so that we can continue to move forward. If you're not really feeling this Mercury retrograde connected to that time, just pay attention to what it is that is coming up that is making you re-look at decisions and re-look at things and make you think like, oh, what that was is not what it seems, or do I need to reconsider this? Take the time to reconsider it. This is not the time to act. March is not the time to put pen to paper. If you have Mercury retrograde in your birth chart, maybe, depending on how you've experienced Mercury retrogrades before. But March is not the time to be decisive. March is not the time to say, okay, I'm going to fill out this form, I'm going to sign this, I'm going to do this, and we're going to submit this. March is the time to say, oh, a form. How interesting. What does this mean? How do I feel about it? What conversations about this are happening? Interesting. Oh, this idea came up, or this conversation came up. Should I not? What conversations do I want to have about it? And by the time you head to April 5th, if you can push things out, or at least April the 1st, April the 2nd, April the 3rd, then see where things are at and see what emerges. And see where that new moon on April the 5th tries to put you. And I would not be surprised if for some of us, we felt that January and February put us in a certain place. And by April the 5th, we realized that we may have to be in a different place, but we're still experiencing that forward trajectory that January started to bring to us. Okay, I'm going to wish you a happy full moon. I don't think that the days leading up to it, a lot of people would consider happy. I think they would be considered tumultuous and emotional and necessary and helpful and kind of, I'm not going to use the word cathartic. I think that maybe April the 19th will be a cathartic full moon. But let's just say that after a few weeks of Mercury retrograde and reflection, the pressure has built up. And this full moon is about that pressure and that gasket needing to be released. So just pay attention to where it is that is happening. For some people, it'll be lower grade, questioning. Is everything what it seems? Is this right? Is this what I should be doing? Is this where I'm supposed to? Just pay attention. Don't dismiss it. Just be patient with it and see how you feel in April. For other people, the energy is a little bit more intense. And so pay attention to it. And if there are conversations that happen that actually put you forward, that are revealing, that reveal the full disk of the moon, then ask the question if the conversation for you is happening on two different levels. I had this conversation, this is what I think I heard and said, but actually, I have a feeling that there's still more under the surface and things may still not be what they seem. Or if someone is saying this, actually I feel that they're doing exactly the opposite. Let the pressure-filled conversation fuel and reveal, if it feels that way to you, any duplicity. And take stock of it. The worst thing to do at this time, I think, would be to sink into paranoia. The best thing to do would be to acknowledge if there's anxiety or paranoia and come to it from a place of stillness and let the gasket blow. And if it does in those conversations, see how it is deepening your understanding of what it is going on around you. Because while Mercury is still retrograde till the 28th, yes, Venus will be in Pisces, more may continue to be revealed before in April you can really start to commit to some sort of action and see if it can lead to lightening the burden before you move forward. 23 minutes and counting. What a Mercury-related, Mercury retrograde full moon update. Lengthy and kind of deliberate, and perhaps even repetitive. Okay, I wish you well, and I will be in touch with other tidbits as I feel inspired to do them. Take care.